entry signals with the horizontal ephemeris and a few other things. This is going to be an informal presentation. No notes, no rules. I'm just going to talk and present some ideas. It's for daily charts, short-term swings, trades that last between 2 and 10 days. Not applicable to day trading, not applicable to anything longer than a maximum 2-week horizon for holding a trade. It's pure swing trading. It's not a system. It's just entry signals, turning point times. You have to use some other methods of entering the market and exiting the market. Like timing solution, I've got the EUR/USD loaded. The EUR/USD, I'm using this because people in both America and Europe trade it. If I use the Dow Jones, people in America trade it. If you live outside of America, who cares, Dow Jones? If I use crude oil, well, I trade crude oil, but then again, crude oil, that's a crazy market, especially with all the unrest in the Middle East. Any rumor, any news story, crude oil goes wild, and that's been going on for years, and it's going to continue to go on for years. So EUR/USD, nice market to focus on for showing ideas. We're going to be looking primarily at this guy right here, the horizontal ephemeris. I've already, to save you time, I've already loaded the models and calculated. The first model, let's look at it. Let's look at this one first. Right ascension. It's a very simple model, incredibly simple. And I just have the transit planets here. First harmonic, nothing fancy at all. Second model is identical. Just nothing but transit planets, the ones I've checked. Declination. But watch. Long Thanksgiving weekend, they laid this on me. The way this works is you need both declination and right ascension. Back then, this was not computerized. We had to do it by hand. 1987. What you're looking for is a period in time where in a 3-day period, and it can include weekends, you have the moon. This dark line here is the moon. This is the moon. It's parallel. Well, here it's conjunction. This is right ascension. Because this is a YouTube video, if it's declination, you say parallel. If it's geocentric or right ascension, you say conjunction. I'm not going to say neither. I'm going to say intersect. When the black line intersects these lines. This way, anybody can understand it. So, you have to have at least 3 planets being intersected within a 3-day period. No more than 3 days. The more the merrier planets intersections. And one of the planets has to be the same in both right ascension and declination that's being intersected. So here I highlighted Saturn. So here's the condition being met. You can see over here I don't have multiple intersects. I do over here and I do over here. So this is right ascension. Now look at this date range right here. We're in November 12th here. November 12th, 2012. So over here, November 11th, Saturn is being intersected by the moon. The moon's the black line again. Plus I have several other planets within that 3-day period, 10, 11, 12. And I have a really nice turning point. Now during the trend, I didn't have a whole lot in intersects. During the trend, I have a couple here, but you don't have them in right ascension land, and they're not the same planets. So let's move on over a little bit more. Let's go back to right ascension land. So not much happening, we're just using the moon here. Next time we have the situations over here. There's Saturn and a couple of other planets. So let's check that date. That's December 10th, 2012. Let's go over to declination land. There's December 10th, 2012, and on the 9th we have the moon parallel or intersecting Saturn and Uranus, and 1 day later we have several more planets. So we want the moon in both right ascension and declination intersecting several planets within a 3-day period, ideally a 2-day period, okay? 3 days because it can span a weekend. If you're in the middle of a week, you want 2 days. If it's covering a weekend, 3 days is fine. And one of the planets has to be the same in both right ascension and declination. In this case, it's Saturn, and I believe it's also, where's Uranus? No, it's not Uranus here. But anyway, it's Saturn. Let's keep going. See, maybe find something else. So we just did the 10th. So we're going along. And here we have a cluster. Interestingly, there's Saturn again. Let's just, for fun, check Saturn on the other one. I realize this isn't a cluster. Let's just check. So what date is this? This is just for fun. January 7th, 2013. Let's go to January 7th, 2013. Well, one day before that, January 6th, I have Saturn again being intersected by the moon. So you can see this is a very interesting thing. Why? Because basically, you have to use your imagination here. See, if this were latitude and longitude, declination and right ascension, you can say generally are combining latitude and longitude. If you were on the Earth looking up, declination, north or south of the equator. It's not the same as latitude. It's north or south of the equator, so it's similar. Right ascension, east or west in the sky. So if you have the moon parallel Saturn, and you have the moon in conjunction to Saturn at the same time, well then the moon and Saturn are kind of occulting each other. All right, you got that. I realize if you're a financial astrologer, you could say, well, I'm sorry, that simply does not meet my definition of occultation. Okay, fine, great. You win. However, it's kind of like it. So let's keep going. Now we don't have anything. What do I do? Oh yeah, I have to click on something. There we go. Let's keep going. So now I've got Saturn over here. I mean, Saturn's all over. Look at what Saturn's doing. What is it with Saturn? Anyway, so here I have, along this top here, I have Saturn starting the series, and I got, within my 3 days, I got a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just chock full of stuff here. So when is this? This is February 3rd. Let's go to February 3rd. Oh my God. There's Saturn. Look at all this stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 parallels, or I'm going to call it intersects, within a 3-day period. Look at this. Now, during the rise, you don't have a whole lot. See, you have like every now and then something. But the cluster, key phrase, the cluster here, you have a cluster here in declination land, the cluster. And in right ascension land, at the same time, around the moon, you have a cluster. Okay, cluster. This isn't rocket science, as you can see. Okay, so Saturn, this may not look like much to you, but to me, we went from down to sideways. At any rate, Saturn's really having a good time here. Look at this shit. Wow. We don't have a cluster here, so actually, no, I take it back. No, that's not the moon. That's not the moon. Anyway, let's just see what's going on in declination lands. What day is this? March 29th. Saturn's having a hell of a run over there. March 29th. So March 28th, the moon is intersecting Saturn, and I got a beautiful cluster. The moon is just hitting. And, I should have mentioned this earlier. When most people look at declinations, they look at the moon and they look at the minimum declination crossing the 0 line or the equator and maximum north declination. They look at these 3 events, and sometimes they may look at Venus or Mercury doing the same thing. That's all valid, Except that my experience, like over here, you can see this is a perfect example. People see this. Oh, look, here's the bottoming of this market, right at the moon minimum declination. And here in this rally, the rally stopped here at the moon's north declination. Start of rally, end of rally. The problem is when you look at this over the years, like I have, the moon max min declination, or Mercury or Venus or Mars, it's just okay. It's not bad, but it's just okay by itself. You wouldn't use it if you really did a thorough researching of it. It's not consistent enough. So over here we can see this beautiful breakup happening right around over here. So when's this? By the way, look at Saturn again. Isn't this crazy? Look at this shit. Or interesting research material. So here's the moon and Saturn again, right at the beginning of this rally. And there's the moon and Saturn at the end of this rally, and it started another rally. But anyway, here's our cluster. May 9th, 2013. So let's look at May 9th. Right there? Yeah, look at this. Look at this. So you can draw a trend line going up, right? You see that? So if you just look at this, I don't know if that's really big. No, it is. This is a sideways market, plus I can draw a trend line here. And right at this cluster here, we started this big downswing. You see that? Right at this cluster. Now, remember this, we're looking at May 9th, all right? So I'm going to go to the other one, May 9th. And there it is. Hold on. Well, you don't have any say in this matter. I'm controlling this. So anyway, May 9th, right there. See that? So once again, right ascension land, declination land, cluster phenomena with the moon, cluster phenomena with the moon. And you get these really incredible turning points over and over and over. So that's cool, right? Now, I can keep on going with this chart, but what's the point? I mean, this isn't that complex. So, oh my God, I've been talking so much. 15 minutes already. So let's look at something else now. What we're going to look at, and I'll keep this up here, is you know how we like to take a planetary aspect and research it. What has been the effect of this planetary aspect for years? I've done that, but I'm not sure any longer that that's a good idea. So if you're running some form of statistics, so I'm going to list maybe anywhere from 5 to 500 planetary aspects in all different zodiacs, and I'm going to load years of data. And I'm going to accumulate statistics on what sort of effect took place on the market when that aspect culminated. And I don't think that's a good idea anymore. And I'm going to show you why. One, I've already done that because the truth of the matter is something like this in declinations or something like this, you can change, if you want to change this little thing to, geocentric or helio, feel free. But the point is, what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking at all the planets. I'm not so-called screwing around with the harmonics. If I change this to a 2, I'd have conjunctions and oppositions. If I changed it to a 3, I'd add trines to it, right? So I'm just not screwing around. What are the planets doing without... I'm just, when you use a harmonica 1, you're just looking at the way the planets are. That's a much simpler way of saying it. And when you do that, and you're able to look at the big picture, all of a sudden you get a completely different view. It's like, well, if I took some of these clusters here, if I took some of these clusters by themselves, well, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. But when I look at the big picture, it's a completely different story for some of these conjunctions. So that when I look at this conjunction by itself, nothing, but all of a sudden this conjunction, same exact conjunction, it's, it could be a turning point. But it's because it's working in concert with the big picture. So we're going to do some more big picture looking right now. We're going to go to, this should be fun. This should be fun. Let's take a look. Let's go to the end, current data. So I have data loaded up to August 30th of 2013. This is my final date here. Let's go to the ULE. Get this out of the way. Well, that's useless. Let me go over here and take a. That's useless. Let me give you an idea of what I mean. I'm going to go and load a model I created just for this presentation. Wow. And we're going to go and we're going to call it Venus spheric. So what the hell is this? I've got the planet Venus, and I only want to look at two things: conjunctions and oppositions. And I'm going to go to these planets. I'm skipping the moon because it's hyper. Venus is my trigger planet, so we don't want it there. It's very simple, right? Very, very simple. Except for one thing. I'm not using geocentric. I'm not using heliocentric. I'm using spheric. So spheric, it's similar to occultations, but it's not. It's very similar to what we were doing with the graphic ephemeris, where I'm saying I want both latitude and longitude. I want this. So let's go back over 20 years, and I'm just learning financial astrology. 25 years? Whatever. Who cares? Conjunction. I'm thinking in my mind, okay, I got two planets in the sky, and they're both kind of covering each other, and that's not what a conjunction is at all. Because one of those planets can be in the northern hemisphere, the other can be in the southern hemisphere, and we're calling that a conjunction. With spheric angle, you're kind of combining latitude and longitude, so it's much closer to the concept of two planets being together in the night in the sky. So I'm using a rather wide orb, 10 degrees. Now let's just see what it does. This is kind of like, we don't need to see this view. So this could be kind of interesting. Like over here, you can see that I'm creating kind of like an index. I don't know exactly what planets are involved here, but I know that Venus is traditionally the planet of money. Venus has got a good correlation with the Euro-USD, especially the US dollar. Oh my God, does it have a correlation with the US dollar? But anyway, it's a turning point. Not just that, but this is August 30th. Check this out. Where are you, little? There we go. This is going up to the present day. So this is August 30th, and the market just keeps on falling. So it's nice. Now, at the bottom here, you could say right in the middle. This is a little bit reading in on my part. There's a turning point at the very bottom. Not much, but the market's going up, and then it went into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, about 8 days of sideways. Same thing right at the middle of the bottom here, right at the middle, we have a turning point. Right in the middle, we have a turning point. Turning point, not much. Turning point. And if I just did Venus on its own, turning point, big turning point. You can spin this. If you get good at this, you could become a vendor. But anyway, see over here, turning point, not much. Turning point, not much. But that's not what I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to get across an idea. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that's a turning point. So you see, this is interesting. Now, if what you come away with from this, what I'm showing you now, is maybe what he's trying to tell me is that I should use Venus and spheric angle with these planets. Not exactly. This is fine. This is good. Maybe you'll find a use for this. But what I'm trying to tell you is it's oftentimes a good idea to look at a bigger picture of not just one planetary aspect, but creating an index either with the horizontal ephemeris or using ULE, the events model editor, creating an index like what you see here. Let's do another example, okay? Because I want to show you, people talk about the galactic center every now and then. Let's do something interesting with the galactic center. If you don't know how to grab the galactic center, go to Options, Timing Solution Options, Astronomy, Planetary Picture. So let me clear this. So, see how we got the special? It's special. You click on GC, and there it is. Then you click on OK. Click on OK. See how calculate came up? So Timing Solution just added the Galactic Center so that when you go to the Events Model Editor here, ULE, and you go to Aspects, you can now select the Galactic Center by selecting Picture. So now we got the Galactic Center right there. And that will not show up. This is really unfortunate because with the Galactic Center and spheric angle, because I've done this by hand, you can get amazing results. But if you try to do this, you get nothing. Nothing. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with so that's unfortunate. But what we'll do is we'll do a little bit down the scale in what's best, and we'll go to geocentric. Let's change this to an orb of let's say 5 degrees. Let's replace that. So now I have Galactic Center. Well, for now, actually Galactic Center, this should be fine. Because the Galactic Center is outside our solar system, I'm not sure there's a big difference between a conjunction and an opposition because they're both on the exact same line. In one you can say, well, the sun's in between us. I don't care. The Galactic Center is outside the solar system, and in my opinion, opposition, conjunction, about the same thing. Let's see what happens here. 5-degree orb, I got it. So this is interesting, sort of, depending on your viewpoint. There's the turning point, right? There's the turning point, no question about it. Now, if you do the Galactic Center on its own, you're not going to get really good results. It's a turning point. This is sideways. This is bullshit. This is schlock. And now you get this awesome breakout here, and the breakout ends over here. And the next swing down ends over here. So this is good. This is a good thing. But if you do the Galactic Center all on its own, you're not going to get results like this with one other planet. You have to look at it in the big picture. How are all the other planets affecting it? You see? And you're not going to get that by taking one zodiac point. All the Galactic Center is a zodiac point. Right? And over here, as you can see, by the way, sometimes with this index you have to wait a long time, but there's no question about it. That's a big turning point right there, right? No question about it. That's a big turning point right there. So that's another thing you can do. You can start looking at the big, if you want to get into financial, if you feel that this is for you. This is not for everybody. There are so many awesome ways to trade the markets that you shouldn't say, oh, well, he's doing that, maybe I should do that. Or, obviously, I have many different styles. I've been doing this for, oh my God, 27 years. But anyway, let's take a look at something else. One last thing. Get my events model back. Erase. I want to show you a technique that's been around for 100 years. Oh, it's over 100 years. And it comes bundled inside the events model editor. You have to go to speed, planetary speed. Planetary speed and Mercury minus Venus speed diagram. And believe it or not, it doesn't take you to speed or speed difference. It takes you to angle difference. Right there, angle difference. But anyway, Mercury, Venus, geocentric speed. Value itself. There it is. Calculate it. This is not going to be awesome, so don't get your hopes up. But this is interesting, and it gives you the basis for further research. I mean, compared to the horizontal ephemeris and some of the other things you saw there with the Galactic Center, this isn't really that. But this is good. And I mean, this speaks for itself, right? Nothing. Now, this model, by the way, see, this was developed over 100 years ago, and it was heliocentric, and it was applied to agricultural commodities. And it's been retrofitted with these, that's an incredibly minor change. But the thing is, You can also do other planets, and you can look at the moon. This business of looking at speed is a good thing. It's a really good thing. This business of just looking at aspects, that's not that great. That's not that. If you want to look at aspects, I recommend doing it the way I showed you, or at least consider it. You have to admit, some of the results we looked at, they were pretty freaking good. And what you're going to get by analyzing aspects individually is it's kind of like in the human body, things work in concert. And if I were to take my liver out and I started examining it, well, what would probably happen is, one, I would drop dead in a minute. But let's say somebody else took over the job of examining it. The liver is simply not going to function the same outside my body as it is inside my body. And when you start, there's a level of decomposition that you can do in analysis, at which point the minute level of decomposition you are looking at really has no meaning anymore. You're basically, you hear me say this all, you're basically just rationalizing, projecting, and making inferences that aren't there. You have to look at the big picture. So if you're a financial astrologer, you can do that with one of the ways, that I suggested here is one way to do it. And another way to do it is by taking a look at speed. The way we look at speed primarily in financial astrology is when are you direct, when are you retrograde, and we do that for the planets, and that's fine. We can also look at when planets start to accelerate or slow down. That's fine. But some of these speed differences that you can do here are also pretty valuable. And when you combine speed with the stuff that you saw in the graphical ephemeris, I think you're way ahead of the game, way ahead of the game, as opposed to just looking at aspects individually and tabulating statistics. I'm not sure you're even in the game if you're doing that, to be honest with you. Anyway, I hope you liked the presentation, and good luck.